Good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. As you may know, this is our fifth Chancellor Speaker series, or fifth in the series of Chancellor Speakers. And tonight we are delighted to have with us the state of Maryland's Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller, one of our own, an alumni of the university. She will discuss her career in public service and how a foundation in science, technology, engineering, and math helped open doors to roles outside of the traditional scopes of engineering. Serving as the 10th Lieutenant Governor of Maryland, she is the second woman to serve in that role and is the first woman of color and immigrant elected to a statewide office in Maryland. Born in India, Lieutenant Governor Miller and her family immigrated to the United States when she was 7 years old. She earned a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from Missouri-Rolla in 1989 and has devoted her life to public service as a transportation engineer and served as a Maryland state delegate for 8 years. Some of her policy focus areas include transportation, mental health, and STEM education. She met her husband, David, at Missouri-Rolla when they were both students here. I think David was electrical engineer? Electrical engineer. They have been married for over 30 years, are the parents of 3 daughters, and live in Montgomery County, Maryland. Please join me in welcoming Maryland's Lieutenant Governor and Missouri-Rolla alumna, Aruna Miller. Thank you.
Chancellor Degani, thank you so much for your warm introduction. Good evening, everyone. I am thrilled to be here with all of you. As you heard from the Chancellor, I can't tell you how excited I am to come back to the place that helped me, be who I am today, that launched me into my career, in my personal life, and so many other ways. So as you heard, my name is Aruna Miller, and I am the Lieutenant Governor of the state of Maryland. And also that you heard, I am an alumnus from Missouri S&T, class of '89. Rolla wasn't just where I earned my degree. It's where the degree of my personal growth, resilience, and sense of purpose was truly shaped. And, I got to tell you, leaving it seemed to trigger a reoccurring dream. The one that so many of us have after college, where you wake up in a cold sweat, wandering through endless hallways, unable to find your class on the day of a big test. Anybody else have those Freddy Krueger-style nightmares over and over again? Yes, right? Mr. Chancellor, I never had those before I went to Rolla. They seem to only start after I graduated from Rolla, okay? So if I could offer a little bit of a recommendation to you, it'd be great if you added Lucid Dreaming 101 to your curriculum. Just saying, those could make those dreams just a little bit better. But all joking aside, S&T fills me with gratitude every single day, because beyond providing me an education that has been a strong foundation of my career, it's where I met this really cute guy, David Miller. He's an electrical engineer, an Air Force veteran, and the guy who stole my heart years ago and has yet to return it back. I got to tell you, I pinch myself every single day to make sure that I'm not dreaming. I actually met him at Rail Cafeteria. And Mr. Chancellor, as Joni Mitchell says, you know, you paved paradise and built a parking lot now over Rail Cafeteria, right? We came back here to really reminisce about the, place where we both met, and there was no Rail Cafeteria anymore, just a parking lot. But that's okay, because I know you're doing great work here. So you could say I owe a lot to S&T. It shaped my life, opened doors of opportunities I could have never, ever imagined. And speaking of shaping lives and creating opportunities, Chancellor Degani, congratulations on your reappointment to your second 5-year term on Rolla campus. It's no surprise you've been celebrated as a transformational leader. Your contributions have left an impact on this institution and beyond. Right? Let's give him a round of applause. I had a fantastic tour of the Innovation Lab that we're sitting in today and the new buildings that now define the campus's landscape. And it's made possible by the historic donation of the Kummer family. Just unbelievable. The largest historic donation of all Missouri schools. That is incredible as well, really, and you made that possible. So, Mr. Chancellor, I want to say your resume is truly remarkable. A PhD in mechanical engineering and now serving as a chancellor of Missouri S&T. And in between those bookends is a remarkable career filled with so many accomplishments, and I'm sure many of you know those. But one in particular that's my favorite is a time that he spent at Johns Hopkins University, Maryland's own top 5 university, where he taught mechanical engineering and served as the founding director of JHU's System Institute. Your career is not just a testament to the excellence, but a source of inspiration for all of us. But what truly sets you apart is your immigrant story, a story of opportunity and the promise of America. The story where immigrants can not only dream big, but achieve those dreams while empowering others to do the same. As an immigrant myself, I can't help but feel a deep kinship to you. Your journey, my journey, and the countless others serve as powerful reminders of what's possible in a country that opens its doors, its heart, and its mind to the world. I came to the United States when I was 7 years old, and Poughkeepsie, New York was my first home. And I'll never forget my first day of school when I walked into the classroom. None of the kids looked like me, and I couldn't speak a word of English. But I wanted to fit in as best I could. So at lunchtime, I figured, okay, here's a great opportunity, right? The food being a gathering place. So I sat there next to my classmates at the cafeteria table, and I decided I'm going to mimic whatever they're doing, because that's the best way to fit in, right? Just do what everybody else is doing. So I did. I had American food for the very first time in my life. I drank cold milk for the very first time in my life. And I was feeling really good and confident. I'm like, okay, I won my classmates over. They're my new BFFs. Start walking back to the classroom, get in, I sit down, and I throw up all over my desk. And I am just terrified. My teacher calls my mom. My mom comes to pick me up, and I'm crying in the back seat of the car, and I'm telling her, I don't want to stay in this country anymore. I want to go back to India where Grandma raised me, and I hate cold milk. I'm never going to drink this again. So my mom takes me home, and by the end of the day, there's a knock on the door. I open the door, and standing in the snow is a classmate of my own. In her hands are a stack full of paintings that all the kids had made for me, some with smiley faces, others with sad faces and tears coming down, others with hearts on it. And it was that simple gesture that the educator in the classroom taught the students to make me feel like I belonged in a country that looked nothing like me. Paintings that spoke of 1,000 words to me through a language I could understand. This simple gesture that educator had instructed the kids to do for me made all the difference. And in that moment, my teacher taught me one of the most important life lessons: the power of empathy and compassion for others. This is my first lesson in America. My family later moved to Baldwin, Missouri. My dad was a mechanical engineer just like you, Chancellor. And he decided, okay, he's going to make his youngest be an engineer. I was the youngest in the family, and I was delighted to start my education in Rolla. Not to mention, just like it is today, a great institution that produces outstanding engineers. I was really excited to start there. And I have so many memories of Rolla that are so fond. But I got to tell you, you meet a lot of professors that are fantastic. And I know all of you are so lucky to have two of them that I met recently. And that includes Dr. Eric Showalter. There he is, right there, right? I got to tell you, I just adore him. I met him in 2021 when I came to visit the campus, and I don't know, it was an open day, and alumni and others were all coming through the building. And for whatever reason, he targeted my husband and me. And I still tease him today to say, I think the reason why he did that was he was like, ooh, new donors. All right, I think I'm going to go meet and talk to them. But he was wonderful. He came over and talked to us. And after we met, I followed up with an email to Dr. Showalter, and we continue to keep in touch. And I'm so grateful for your friendship and what you provide, your leadership to the students here at Missouri S&T. Really, you all are so lucky to have him. And also, another one of my favorites here, I don't know, there he is, Dr. Joel Birkin. What a great guy he is, right? I mean, he is just so passionate about all the students. They adore him, it's obvious. And he's always pushing them to new boundaries, trying to make them do new things. And I think that's just so great, Dr. Birkin. I just cannot say enough. I wish I had the both of you as professors when I was here at S&T. Look, I had great professors too, but you all really have taken it to a new level. And I also need to give a great big shout out to Melanie. There she is. She's been hanging around with me all day, giving us a tour of the campus. I just cannot say enough about you, Melanie. Thank you. Thank you for hanging around with us all day. So one of my favorite professors when I was here is Dr. Shamshir Prakash. I don't know if many of you know who he is. I know Dr. Birkin. I see some heads nodding here. He was my favorite professor. As you know, for those of you that don't know him, he was an expert on earthquakes, and he was dedicated to civil engineering and yoga. Those were his two passions, proving that it's possible to master both inner balance and seismic forces with equal grace. He was a confirmed bachelor into his mid-50s when I had met him. That is until the earth shifted in ways even he couldn't predict. On campus, he met the love of his life, a beautiful lady named Sally, and an international engineering student from China. And suddenly, the man who spent his life studying stable foundations found his own a little shaken. And the rest, they say, is history. And of course, they ended up marrying one another. I am grateful to Dr. Prakash and the many others that I met during my stay here. And I'll tell you, him being in the field of geotech, he really inspired me to get into that for a brief period of my time. So when I was in Rolla, we're always looking for those summer opportunities to work at companies, right? So here I am, I'm struggling to do the same. And one of his students came up to me and gave me a business card. And the business card was of a geotech firm all the way in Honolulu, Hawaii. So I took the card and I said, I'm going to get a job there. And I remember all my friends laughing at me. They're like, are you kidding me? Keep on dreaming. You're not going to Honolulu, Hawaii. And for those of you who are younger here, this was long before there were cell phones and emails and all the rapid responses that are available nowadays. This literally took picking up a phone, making a long-distance call that cost you an arm and a leg, right, every time you called. That's how you had to do it in the old days. And so I called him up. And of course, his answer was, no, I'm not giving you a job all the way here for the summer. But I'm going to tell all of you something. The answer is always no, unless you ask and ask and ask again. I was relentless with this gentleman, and I kept calling him. Again, those long-distance bills came to fruition and paid me back. Well, he finally said yes. And I flew to Honolulu, Hawaii for that summer and worked at the geotech firm. And it was the best job I ever had, I have to tell you. And it felt so great to come back to all my friends who doubted me and said I couldn't do it. I was like, I guess I proved all of you wrong, right? But, I share that story to every one of you as students because there'll be moments in your life you're going to have doubters that come and tell you you can't do something. Oh, no, you're not supposed to be there. Oh, no, that promotion is not meant for you. Don't listen to anybody. Listen to your inner voice, your inner moral compass on what's the right thing to do. And it'll always guide you in the right direction. So even if you hear the word no, just keep trying and trying and trying. Eventually, it'll become a yes. So after graduating from Rolla, I have to tell you that my graduation isn't something I did in a silo and by myself. I'm a product of public education. I'm a product of a public university, Missouri S&T. And I'm a product of public investment. When I went to Rolla here, I relied on Pell Grants and other financial aid to help me cross the finish line. The reason why I had to do that is because my father faced a health crisis and he ended up losing his job. My father suffered from bipolar disorder. And at the time, people really didn't understand what that was and the type of things people go through when you suffer from something like that. And I remember him losing his job. He lost his friends, he lost his purpose, and you lose your dignity along the way when you lose those two things. And so he could no longer work, and I had to figure out a way how I was going to graduate from Rolla. And it was Pell Grants and other financial aid mechanisms that were available for me to be able to graduate. As a result of that, I knew at that moment that I wanted to make sure I focused my career on public service because it was my way of paying it forward to a country, to taxpayers, to everyone that helped me along the way, from the educators who taught me English when I didn't know a word of it when I arrived to this country, to the other public servants who worked at the university and helped me to get through engineering. And this has made all the difference. Look, I'm sure some of you know this line, with great opportunities comes great responsibility. And so that's why I chose a life of public service. My job, when I first graduated from Rolla, I landed at LA County Public Works and Transportation. Imagine being a traffic engineer in Malibu. Man, that was such a great job, I have to tell you. I got to go and ride around in beautiful Pacific Coast Highway and work on problems that the people in Malibu had the big problems like, hey, we need a stop sign here. Hey, we need this there. It was just a great, great life. But I gave it all up. Why? Because remember that really cute guy I met in Rail Cafeteria? Well, he ended up getting a job at the U.S. Patent Office in Washington, D.C. So one of us had to give it all up for love. So I gave it up and moved over to Maryland, and that's where we created a life together. We have 3 daughters, grown daughters, and I'm proud to say my youngest is a STEM major. She is a computer science major and graduated and is now working at Duolingo. I don't know if many of you have heard of that. That's where she works at right now. My middle daughter is studying to be an attorney, and my oldest daughter is a public educator. And, Chancellor, I like to say my kids turned out to be my favorite type of people, taxpayers, right? They are contributing to society and doing their part to keep the cycle moving along, right? Look, as some of you as young people, you probably don't understand exactly what I mean by that, but us as parents, we understand that. It's really important what you are doing for your parents as well. You're working hard, you're gonna go out, you're gonna contribute to society in meaningful ways. And at the end of the day, that's what we want as parents. Nothing more than that. We want you to care about the community that you live in and give back as much as you can. So after I moved to Maryland, I worked at a local government, Montgomery County DOT, and that's where I spent 25 years of my life. I did everything from planning, design, construction of infrastructure, whether it was roadways, transit, sidewalks, bike paths, all of it. And as engineers, our projects are a labor, a passion. Some come to fruition, while others, despite your greatest effort, are sidelined due to lack of political will, budgetary constraints, or other reasons where the projects are shelved for decades. And trust me, I poured my heart and soul into projects, and they're just collecting dust on a bookshelf. But then there are other projects that you take from conception to completion, and my gosh, the joy that you feel, the pride that you feel that you are part of this effort to be able to have people use this infrastructure to get where they need to. Because look, at the end of the day, being a transportation engineer and infrastructure, what is that about? It's about connecting people to opportunities. It's about connecting people to jobs, to schools, to education, to communities. That's what it's about. And nobody can exist without infrastructure, right? All the infrastructure, different avenues that civil engineers play in. So know that you have such a meaningful role in people's lives. Now, you might ask, how did tasks such as analyzing road alignments, optimizing traffic signal timings, conducting capacity analysis, or evaluating environmental impacts on infrastructure projects leads to politics? As Steve Jobs famously said, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect it looking back. So let me assure all of you, those dots didn't just connect. They formed a foundation of greater purpose in my life. So in the year 2000, I became a United States citizen, and it was the first time that I got to vote. And that election was a presidential election year between Al Gore and George W. Bush. I was so happy to go into the polling booth and finally vote. And I felt really good. I'm like, okay, I did what I had to. My candidate's gonna win. Well, it ended up my candidate didn't prevail. And it occurred to me, okay, I guess I'm supposed to do a lot more than just vote. You see, when you come here as an immigrant, at the kitchen table, You're not talking to your parents about how we can be more civically engaged, how can we get more involved in politics. All you're trying to do when you're the first-time immigrants to this country, you're just trying to assimilate yourself into the world. You keep your head low, you work hard, you try not to rock the boat. And everything about politics is rocking the boat, okay? So we never talked about it growing up. So in the year 2000 was really my first avenue into politics. And I learned a lesson there and how disappointing it was when, you vote for a candidate. That's all I did, and he didn't prevail. So what I did next was I called up the local Democratic Party, and I said, listen, I have no idea what you all do, but I want to be able to help in whatever way I can. And let me tell you, they are so eager to get any live, people out there that are willing to come out and help. And so they immediately took me on. And I don't know how many of you know this, but whether you're, with the Republican Party, Democratic Party, Green Party, you name it, there's a whole infrastructure that is built so you can volunteer. And somewhere at the bottom of that infrastructure are called precinct officials. They actually are the ones that are sitting at polling sites when you go out to vote, and they're pushing their candidate, of choice to you. That's how I first started in politics. I went into it not knowing a thing about what I needed to do, and I was terrified because people are coming up to you asking questions, and you better know your material when they're asking, well, why should I vote for this person and not that person? So you got to do your research. But you know what? Missouri S&T trained me in that. It trained me on how I should do my research and make it concise and give the information out. So I did that for a number of years, 4 years or so. And then finally, an opening came up in my district. And so the friends in my Democratic Party reached out to me and they said, hey, we think you'd be a terrific candidate. Would you consider running? And I was like, oh, wow, thank you. No, thank you. And I hung up. And my husband looked at me and he's like, did you just hang up on them? And I'm like, yeah, heck yeah, I did. And he's like, why would you do that? I said, first of all, I'm not a politician. I'm an engineer. And he looked at me and he goes, but you're a public servant, are you not? And I'm like, yeah, I am. And he goes, you love public service, don't you? And I go, I do. And he goes, think about this as, this is public service, but at a much broader scale than just providing infrastructure. So I made a list of all the reasons why I shouldn't run, right? I'm not smart enough. I'm not good enough. People in that district will never, ever vote for me because nobody that looked like me had ever been elected there. So made up all the reasons. Let me tell you, women have a tendency to do this quite a bit. So to all the ladies that are in the room today, statistics show that it takes 7 times over before you can convince a female to run for office. That means you have to keep asking her because she'll keep doubting. I doubt any of the females that are in this room are like that, but I was. It took me many times over for my husband to sit and talk to me before I was finally convinced to do it. So I finally threw my name into the hat and I ran for office. And let me tell you, I was completely wrong because the voters in that district didn't mind what I looked like. They listened to what I had to say. They liked the fact that I was an engineer. They liked the fact that I had devoted my entire adult life to public service and the policies that I stood for. And so that was my first run at running for office, and I'm fortunate to say that I had the pleasure of winning. And let me tell you, winning isn't so much about winning for yourself. When you're in political office, you get to win for the people because people come up to you and share their trials and tribulations, the difficulties that they face as citizens living in the state or in the district, and you have the great opportunity to make things better for them. That's what winning is about. When you can lift others up and empower them to do things that, that you may not even realize that government itself may be setting up the barriers for them to succeed because people are just not aware of it. So I like to say that 80% of the bills that I actually introduced when I was elected during the 8 years in the state legislature, it all came from citizens who came to me with problems that they were facing. And so as soon as I heard those problems, first thing I did was contact the department head, see if they could change it, and if they couldn't, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to introduce legislation to change it. And that's how it works. And I want to say to every one of you that are here today, policy making impacts our life from the moment we wake up till the moment we close our eyes. It's in everything that you are a part of. Whether it's, coming to this terrific university, guess what? The money that comes here from is not only from private donors such as the Commerce, but it also comes from taxpayers and policymakers who decide how much money they're going to invest in this university. Whether it's driving on the roads that you're using to get where you have to, the infrastructure that you're using, those are policymakers that decide whether they want to invest in this or not. So know how important it is and the value that you add by being engaged politically, by making sure you support candidates that you believe in, that support your values, and to also never, ever leave your name off the list of one day running for public office yourself. Because, you might say, and I just shared that story with you, even though I'm an engineer, I had the extraordinary opportunity to run for public office, and so do you. Just about every office that you may want to consider ever running for, you don't need to have a specific professional background. It's usually the requirements are age and citizenship and that you live in the district, that you may be running for. The only office that I'm aware of that you may need to have a specialty education is an attorney general. Usually they have to be attorneys and barred in order to run for that office. Apart from that, it's fair game. So please think of that as you are embarking on your own careers, even if it is, just in engineering, because you just never know where life is going to take you. Look, I never in a million years imagined that as an engineer graduating from S&T, that 25 years later, I'd be running for public office. Never, ever could have imagined that. So I say that sometimes you have plans for life, and other times life has plans for you. Be nimble, be ready, take up those opportunities when they come, because opportunities don't come too often. So say yes as often as you can, because yes opens up doors to things that you might otherwise have, just kind of pushed aside and thinking it wasn't a big deal. When somebody invites you to an event, like today, you're at this, speaking series, there's always reasons why you don't need, you're going to tell yourself, I don't need to be there. I got to do this. I got to do that. There's always busyness in life. Don't let busyness of life distract you from what's really important. And those are the opportunities that come in very, very subtle ways to you. All right? And another thing that I would tell all of you is that I believe in manifestation, meaning that you need to visualize where you want to be in the future. You need to write it down. You need to say it to yourself several times over, and you need to do that every single day. That's not what's going to get it for you. But I'll tell you, the moment you manifest that, you put that out in the universe, all of a sudden the universe starts to conspire in very subtle ways to get you what it is that you put down and where you need to be. It's subtle. It may take many, many years to get you there, but it's there. So do that if you can, because I've always done that, And I'll tell you, it's paid off in ways. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how many times that the things I've written down have come true. So the one thing I will say that when you're in this role, you get all sorts of people that come up to you and say things to you because they don't think you need to be there. In fact, I remember when I first got elected, this gentleman came up to me and he said to me, "What's a nice girl like you doing in the business of politics?" And I looked at him and I said, "You know, the business of politics is everybody's business, number one. And two, you may want to ask my 3 daughters if I'm nice, and they'll tell you I'm not that nice." Okay? And so you need to be tough when you're in this field, and you need to say no at times, and don't let other people push you around in any ways. So as a lieutenant, anyway, after I got elected, I should let you know, then I ran for U.S. Congress in 2018. Ended up losing. I didn't prevail. I came in second place. And I thought, that's it. It's over for me. Let me tell you, winning feels a lot better than losing. But losing really makes you reflect on yourself, on the people that were around you, and how you can improve yourself the next time around. So I say to all of you, you're going to have setbacks in life, but you're going to have comebacks too. You're going to have the joys in life, and you're going to have heartbreaks too. So ask yourself this question: is life happening to you or for you? When you believe that life is happening to you, then you are a victim, because you feel you don't really have any control over what's happening. But when you believe that life is happening for you and through you, you become empowered. So you need to embrace the good, the bad times, the joys, the heartbreaks, the wins, and the losses. It's going to make you who you are, and it'll make you a better person in the end. So while I did not prevail in my U.S. Congress race, fast forward 3 years later, I'm coming back to Rolla for the first time. My husband and I, after having graduated in 1989, we decided, 30 years later, hey, let's go visit Rolla. And we're driving here and thinking, hey, everything's going to look exactly as we left it. Well, turns out Chancellor Degani had other plans. He changed everything around so much. We were so disoriented when we came here. We're like, is this the same town that, we actually went to school in? But it's just remarkable, Mr. Chancellor. Really, the impact that you've had here is truly amazing. So on my drive to Rolla, I get a phone call from a guy named not from him, but his office, a guy named Wes Moore, who's running for governor in the state of Maryland. So the campaign reaches out to me and says, hey, we'd like you to come and meet Wes Moore tomorrow. I said, what? Are you kidding? No, I'm not meeting him tomorrow. I'm going to Rolla. I haven't been there in this many years. And they said, okay, what's another day to come? I said, okay, maybe after I come back. So after I come back, I meet this guy named Wes Moore. And let's just say after 45 minutes of meeting with him, my husband and I walked away. We looked at each other and we said, this guy, Wes Moore, is going to be the next governor in the state of Maryland. He's an incredibly, he's just a visionary, a leader, compassionate person, charismatic. I'm just so honored to be on this ticket with him. So we joined the ticket together, and, fast forward, we run for governor and lieutenant governor in the state of Maryland, and we end up winning. And let me tell you about that election. Wes Moore became the first Black governor ever elected in the state of Maryland. I became the first immigrant, Asian American, lieutenant governor ever elected in the state. Together, we became the first gubernatorial ticket black and brown ticket to ever win in the United States of America. So representation matters, and we wanted to make sure that representation was reflected in our cabinet. And we built the most diverse cabinet in Maryland's history ever, where 50% of our cabinet secretaries are female and 50% are people of color. Because look, no one demographic is able to reach everybody. You need to have representation of individuals in leadership roles that reflect their communities. So I'm proud to be here today with all of you, and I want to say that Missouri and Maryland have quite a bit in common. Missouri is about 7 times geographically larger than the state of Maryland, but we almost have the same exact population, a little over 6.1 million in our case, and 6.2 for Missouri. Missouri has key military installations like Fort Leonard Wood, while Maryland is home to Fort Meade Naval Academy and actually 20 other military installations. Now, some of the biggest cities in our states, St. Louis and Baltimore, have often been compared for their striking similarities, rich in histories, shared challenges, and enduring old industrial charm. Both cities have faced obstacles, but have also seen great comebacks, and they both have great baseball teams, right? Man, those birds, whether it's the Cardinals or, the Baltimore Orioles, great baseball teams. And here's the thing, whether it's Missouri, Maryland, or any state across the nation, our ability to compete globally depends on how we innovate and prepare the challenges for tomorrow. An economist recently said, for the United States to remain competitive globally, we must focus on several areas: innovation, immigration, procreation, and the one I like to add to the list, collaboration. So innovation. When it comes to innovations, institutions like Missouri S&T are key drivers. Advancing research, Missouri's S&T cutting-edge work in engineering, material science, and renewable energy positions it as a hub for groundbreaking discoveries. Developing a talent pool by equipping students like you with top-tier STEM education, Missouri S&T ensures a steady pipeline of skilled innovators. Similarly, Maryland is home to 47 colleges and universities, including 4 of the nation's HBCUs, historically black universities. And I don't know if you all know this, but Morgan State University is a HBCU, and it graduates the highest percentage of black engineers in the nation. In Maryland, we continue to invest in cutting-edge technologies in areas of life science, biotech, aerospace, cybersecurity, and quantum computing. We believe that driving our economy into the future starts with leveraging the strengths of our university system. That's why we have created the University of Maryland Discovery District, which is an innovation hub for Research Park located in the heart of College Park at the University of Maryland. Forbes magazine has dubbed University of Maryland as the epicenter of quantum technology in the United States. We also know that beyond innovation, that government must play a role in providing guardrails for safe and ethical use of emerging technologies. So while Governor Westmore and I are committed to leveraging artificial intelligence into state government, it must be done responsibly and ethically. In Maryland, the governor has appointed Maryland's first ever senior advisor for responsible AI, whose focus is on responsible use, productive use, and boosting the state's AI IQ. So, immigration. Innovation drives technological advancements and economic growth, but innovation thrives on fresh ideas, bold thinking, fueled by the talent we attract around the entire world, which is why immigration is so essential. Immigrants, despite comprising just 16% of the U.S. population, are responsible for 23% of U.S. patents. More than 70% of full-time graduate students in STEM fields at U.S. universities are international students. Roughly 2/3 of top AI companies in the U.S. were founded by immigrants. Immigrants founded and co-founded 55% of U.S. startups, valued at over $1 billion. I'm sure you heard of Sergey Brin, co-founder of Google, originally from Russia. Jensen Huang, co-founder of CEO of NVIDIA, Taiwan. Satya Nadella, CEO of Microsoft, from India. And of course, you have your fantastic Chancellor from Iran, right? Encouraging immigration is not just an option, it's a necessity for sustaining America's prosperity. So procreation. Now, when it comes to procreation, I'm pretty sure I don't need to explain this one to all of you. In the 1960s, there were 6 people of working age for every retired person. Today, that ratio is closer to 3 to 1. And by 2035, it's expected to be 2 to 1. As women entered the workforce in greater numbers, domestic policies in the U.S. have not adapted sufficiently to support them as both workers and mothers. The U.S. remains one of the few developed countries without a national paid family leave policy. Governor Moore and I believe that we don't have to choose between a competitive economy and an equitable one. We can have both. With our partners in the state legislature, we have taken meaningful steps to support families in balancing their careers and family life. We enacted the statewide Family Leave Act, which provides 12 weeks of paid family and medical leave so that the state's 2.7 million workers don't have to choose between their career or their family. And Maryland's 180,000 employers don't have to choose between supporting their employees and making payroll. I got to tell you, when I was in the state legislature in 2010, I introduced a bill about paid family medical leave. You would have thought I landed from Mars when I introduced that. People looked at me like, are you kidding me? No, that's never going to happen. And sure enough, my bill didn't pass. But that's another thing that I want to impress upon all of you. Progress takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, right? The road to progress is always under construction. So things will get better and better, but you should never take your eye off the ball in making that happen. So the Moore-Miller administration has also made the largest ever state investment in quality childcare, which removes employment barriers for parents and bolsters our local national economies. And we're also investing in pre-K education. Look, when it comes to procreation, I know women are the ones who are the brunt of feeling the burden of that, meaning they have to choose between their careers or staying at home. But that's where our policies have to change. We need to make sure that women don't have to make that choice. And we can do that through public policy, like what we did in our great state. So it's not just natural resources or technology that fuels progress. It's the people and working families who contribute their talents, ideas, and hard work to drive progress. Investing in our greatest resource, our people, is not just a moral imperative, but an economic one. And in Maryland, we work every day with the mission to build a state where we leave no one behind. So collaboration and partnership is what guided Maryland through one of its most challenging times. But what unfolded in the early morning hours of March 26, when the Francis Scott Key Bridge collapsed after a collision with a cargo ship, was devastating. But what happened next was inspiring. In the face of Maryland's most challenging moments, Governor Moore stepped forward, guiding us with unwavering determination and a clear vision. Through united effort, we brought together federal, state, local leaders alongside private and philanthropic partners. And what was projected to take 11 months to open the federal channel, we were able to accomplish that in 11 weeks with no major injuries. But the collapse, of course, we did end up losing 6 transportation workers. And let me tell you, Governor Moore and I, especially, we know how devastating that was for the families, and we attended every one of those funerals to be there beside the families to let them know how important and valuable the work that these individuals provided to all of us. The collapse of the FSK Bridge tested us, but it also revealed the best of who we are, a community that comes together, a state that leads with purpose, and people who never, ever back down. So it's teamwork, partnership, and collaboration are the true formulas for progress. So in closing, I want to thank each and every one of you for being here to listen to my remarks. I want to thank you, Chancellor Degani, for inviting me here, and Dr. Showalter and Dr. Birkin and Melanie, thank you for the wonderful day that you provided for me. I'm just so happy to be here. And I want all of you to know that if you ever decide to come to the state of Maryland, please, please come visit me at the State House. And I know my chief of staff here, Jerry Bird, is going to get very upset when I say this. I'm going to give you all my email. So if you ever need to contact me for whatever reason, I want you to know that I am always accessible to all of you. I am grateful for my life here in Missouri, here for the education that Rolla provided me. And, I want to give back to all of you in any way that I can. So my email is rather simple. It's just my first name and last name, Aruna Miller, no dots in between, less is more, arunamiller@gmail.com. Simple enough, right? Okay. So please write to me if I can be of service to you at any time. Do not hesitate to reach out to me. And if you come to the state of Maryland, would love to host you at the State House. Thank you for having me here tonight. Thank you. Thank you, Chancellor.
Thank you, Governor Miller. We are really, really proud of you. From public investment to public education to public service. I've been honorably carrying that same badge myself for years, from public education, public investment to public service. Thank you for that reminder. That was great. We are really, really proud of you as our exemplar alumna, and we look forward to when we truly call you Governor Miller and Senator Miller, and you should know that we have our ears to the ground to figure out what your next step is going to be. So thank you. And now Dr. Larry Gregg, our historian, will moderate a question and answer session. And if you wouldn't mind, please, just a few questions and answers for our audience. Thank you.
Good to have you with us.
Thank you.
I was going through my list of questions as I was listening to your talk. You were answering most of my questions. So
that's what happens when you give a politician a microphone. They just go on and on and on.
But I do have a few.
Sure.
The one that I think really does percolate to the top is, what would you say to the younger generation of voters who are really worried about the future?
I hear you, I see you, and I understand you. Look, I know our country is going through difficult times right now, but know that our country is unfinished, right? It's up to each and every one of you to contribute, to do what you can to make it a better place. And that requires every one of you to be fully engaged at every level. Don't wait till how late I waited to get engaged. You need to be engaged as early as possible. You need to be able to get out there, to rally and support candidates that you believe in, in whatever political party that they're coming from, to share your concerns and your voices with your elected leaders. And one day I hope to even run for office yourself. Never, ever take that off the table. Look, I know that there's a lot of partisanship that's taking place across the country, a lot of things that make us all uncomfortable about what's happening, but that doesn't mean you retreat. That means you just go right into it and do the right thing. And yes, it's going to feel uncomfortable to take on people that may not believe in the same position or the same value system that you have. But one thing I will say is, look, every one of us comes from different walks of life. Just because someone disagrees with you doesn't make them your enemy. And I have countless stories on how I was able to resolve issues with individuals that didn't quite think like me, but that's part of life. Life is compromising. You're never going to get exactly what you want out of it. You got to work with people and work towards what you believe in. So look, I am hopeful. I am so optimistic about the future, and you should be too, because you are the future, all of you. You're going to create the next chapter of the U.S. history, and I can't wait to see what you have in store. And I know already how engaged you are, that you are here in an institution that is giving you this incredible foundation of education. Use it as a launching pad. That's what it is. It's a launching pad that's going to open up doors for you and to be able to do things that a lot of people don't have access to. So your job is to make the world just a better place for others. Remember that. It's not just about elevating yourself and how far you get. At the end of the day, it's about what are you giving back to the world.
Good, thank you. What drew you to the Democratic Party over other options?
What drew me to the Democratic Party? For one thing, I will say it's our belief in creating an equitable environment for all citizens, that we want to make sure that no matter where you come from in society, no matter what zip code, what socioeconomic background, what race, whether your sexuality and preference and how you identify, that you are a resident and a citizen of this great country, and we're going to fight for you. One of the big misconceptions that I think that happens when you get to elected office is you feel that you should be representing the majority. That's not what it's about. It's about representing the rights of minorities. Democracy plays such a big role in that. And I believe Democratic Party is always looking out for the minority communities, trying to elevate them, trying to give greater opportunities. And that's why I believe in the Democratic Party.
Thank you. We got time for one more.
Sure.
And this one really does interest me a lot because you're so intensely involved in state government. How do you balance your work and your personal life?
That's a great question. Look, I think for any of us, when we have work and family life, that's just part of it, right? You're going to have to balance it. I'm fortunate that I have a great foundation at home. My mother lives with me. She's lived with me for 25 years after my father passed away. My husband is my biggest fan, so he's always there supporting me. So if you don't have that kind of infrastructure, it makes it a little bit more challenging. I'm blessed that I have family members in my home that are ready to, take on whatever responsibility. And when I was working full-time and was in public office and was raising a family, it really required a village to help out in every aspect. So that's what I say, that don't feel that you have to do it all. Share the responsibilities with others. It's okay if the auntie or the uncle or the friend down the street is watching your kids. It doesn't have to be you all the time. And so I think that's important, that we don't just have a nuclear family, but a more extended family that includes friends and extended family to come in and help out and pitch in where they need to.
Thank you. An editorial comment, if I may. I've been the campus historian for a number of years, and one of the best things about being the campus historian is getting to see alumni come back. Yeah. And talk about their experiences at S&T, and that was wonderful that you reflected upon your time when it was UMR.
UMR,
So I started teaching in 1977 when it was UMR.
So you remember,
yeah,
yes.
Absolutely. So again, thank you so much for being here. It was a true delight to have you with us.
Thank you so much, and thank you for your beautiful book.
Oh, you're welcome.
That you gave. Did you all see the great book that he created? I can't wait to dig into that and
wonderful.
read it when I get home.
Cool, cool. So I'll turn it back over to Chancellor Degani.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Thank you very much. And now, please join me in thanking Lieutenant Governor Aruna Miller one last time. Thank you. Thank you very much. While the session is formally concluded, we have a reception going on out there, and I welcome all of you to please join us. And I see some goodies out there, so don't be shy. See you out there. Thank you all for coming.